Hello everybody, and if you just finished watching my WIP update, welcome back. Otherwise, welcome back from just a longer time ago. My favorite thing is watching Maynia videos as people are getting ready for Maynia, so I thought I would make one this year. So this is the Maynia video. These are my plans for my 2019 Maynia. If you're not familiar with Stitch Maynia, M-A-Y-N-I-A, there's a Facebook group called Stitch Maynia. You can go look and get some more information there. But it was a group of stitchers who created this Facebook group, Stitch Maynia. And several of them decided in 2015 that they were going to do a fun thing that May. And I think one of them had a birthday in May, but I'm not sure what made them decide to do it. They came up with an idea that they were going to start 15 new things for the year 2015 in the month of May. But they all did it a little bit differently. I know one of them did as many starts as she was turning that year for her birthday. I think that was Stash Queen. And I remember hearing about it at the time and hearing lots of other, and it was just an idea that took over like wildfire through the stitching community. It just spread like you wouldn't believe because new starts are so fun, right? And there are no rules. It doesn't have to be new things. It can be whips. It can be, maybe you're going to start a new project every other day for the whole month. Maybe you're going to start 31 new projects through the whole month of May. Maybe you're going to start more than that. Maybe you only want to start one new start a week during the month of May. Maybe you want to touch all your whips, one per day, all through. Really, there is no rules for Maynia. It's whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. But it does, I mean, I was going to say it does usually happen in the month of May, but that's not even true. I've seen people saying that they were, because May wasn't a good month for them, or they wanted to do it during their birthday month or something, so they'll do it at a different time of year. So really, there are no rules. But if you're wondering why everyone keeps talking about Maynia, that's what it is. So I heard about it in 2015 and thought, that's nuts. That's crazy. I mean, we already have, I'm trying to get my WIP piled down. I don't need to add that many things to it. That is nuts. And so I kept, and then I heard about it again in 2016. Then I heard about it again in 2017 and was just kind of watching from the sidelines. Loved watching everyone's videos. Loved looking to see at what they started. Kind of the idea was growing on me. And then last year was the first time I did it. It was in 2018. And on May 2nd, yes, it was May 2nd. I was having one of those days. Several stressful situations going on in my life that I couldn't do a lot about and were going to last for several more months. So I was escaping on my computer, surfing on 1-2-3 Stitch, watching some Flosstube, entertaining myself for a minute, trying to take a break from all the stressful things. And I saw a pattern on 1-2-3 Stitch. It was Victorian charm. This one right here. It's a dimensions kit. I saw that on 1-2-3 Stitch and I was just like, oh, I'd never seen it before. I have to have that. So I ordered it right then. Clicked order, paid for it. It's coming to my house. And then I was sitting there thinking, it was one of those days when you're under a lot of stress and you think to yourself, I really would like to run away. Could I just run away right now? Take my stitching, run away, and I'll come back until I feel like it. And you don't, because you're an adult and you do the responsible thing. But oh, it sounded so fun to run away. And I thought to myself, maybe instead of running away, I will participate in Maynia this year, because that sounds fun. So on May 2nd, I thought, I made the decision. Yep, I'm going to do it. So I ran downstairs to my sewing room where I keep all my stash. Just quickly made a list of things I already had. I had all the patterns. I did have to buy a little bit of floss and a little bit of fabric. Victorian charm that I had just ordered. I decided that was going to be one of them because I knew it would be here within 3-4 days. 1-2-3 Stitch is just 20 minutes from me down the freeway. So they always get to my house in 2 days, 3 days, or maybe if they were waiting for something to come in and then shipped it. But I knew it'd be here in less than a week. So I knew that could be one of them. I thought, I probably shouldn't start a whole bunch of big things. So I did tried to pick some smaller stuff, and just made a list right then. Pulled some stuff together, got one of the reusable grocery bags out. Just started throwing everything in it that I was going to need, making a list of what couple of things I could get on 1, 2, 3 Stitch and buy, you know, some colors of floss I was missing, or maybe I needed some more perforated paper, and I thought, well, May 1st, yesterday, I was working on Shores of Hawk Run Hollow. I did stitch last night. So I decided, okay, what if I did some WIPs in with my starts? What if I didn't start, because last year was 2018 and I wanted to do 18 things. So I thought, what if I do 5 WIPs, choose 5 of my WIPs and make those Maynia projects, and then do, what would that be, 13 new starts. So that's what I did. And I counted Shores of Hawk Run Hollow as one of my WIPs because that's what I worked on May 1st. And then I made a list. I finally had to write it down on a piece of paper because I was going nuts trying to remember everything. And just started, I threw everything in a bag like I said. Took me probably a couple hours that night to pull threads and fabric and stuff out of my stash to get everything, order some stuff, and then started on May 2nd. And so it was because it was such a last minute thing, I was the night before every day. I had to stop whatever I was stitching on that I didn't want to put down and think about the next day. Oh, okay, what am I starting tomorrow? What am I going to need for that? Because I knew there were some days that I could, there was a couple days I was only able to stitch on my lunch half hour, and that was all I did. There was one day that I was at the women's conference down in Provo, and so I knew I needed to have it all ready, something small, throw it in my bag, and I could probably stitch on it when I was at one of the great big, listening to one of the speakers that's in the Marriott Center, great big huge basketball stadium, because you could be up in the, you know, nosebleed section listening to the speaker, but you could be stitching and not be like right in front of them. Kind of sometimes looks a little rude when you're right in front of a speaker and you're doing something else, although I so wish I could do that all the time. Anyway, so I had to spend time the night before each day getting stuff ready for the next day. And then on the weekend, I think I finally had some time to spend a little more time getting a little more organized. And I loved it. I enjoyed that so much. And I finished everything but 3. Those 3 in orange, I did not finish of all of my Maynia stuff. So 3 of those are going to continue into my Maynia 2019 plans because that's how I decided to do it. If I started it in 2018 for Maynia and it's not done yet, then it's just going to continue on until it's done. It will be one of. So this year I'll do 19 things, and these 3 are already in their slots. And I wrote down what day. I was making notes next to everything. The pink ink, pink pen that's circled, those are I was keeping track of what day I started, what day of the month I started each project. Because I thought it would be really cool that if you didn't finish it, you would work on it that same day of the month the next year. Like it was in that slot, that day slot. So those 3, I already know those 3 will be on a particular day in May because that's when I started them. But for the rest of them, I don't assign a day. I just kind of have everything kitted up in the bags ready to go. And I'll just choose each day. And it will depend on, because sometimes you know that you're only going to get a half an hour of stitching in that day. So I might choose something that's more portable because I know I'm going to have to be somewhere else stitching. Or if it's a great big piece, then it's a little more complicated, then I'll choose that on a day that I know I'm going to be home in the evening stitching and can have a little more time, or a Saturday or something. So that's what I did last year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Finished way more stitching this year than I ever have. Plus, Flosstube helps too, making a video. You stitch because you know you need to. Sorry, I'm getting to the pieces here really quick. Blitzstitch mentioned, Brian, his YouTube channel is Blitzstitch. He mentioned on his couple of videos ago that he was down to, I think, 3 WIPs, might have been 4. And he was trying to get his WIP pile down, so he wasn't starting anything new. And he realized when he was down to 3 or 4 that it was I believe, sorry Brian if I'm getting this wrong, sorry, but he realized that the reason those 3 or 4 were still left, were still WIPs, was because they were heavy for some reason. And I mean, like emotionally heavy, like it was, and they were old. He'd had them for a long, long time. Been working on them for a long time. So you're already tired of them. There's something that's hard about it that doesn't go really fast or easy. It's when you burn out easy on, maybe. And I realized that too. Last year when I started Maynia, I was trying really hard to get my WIP pile down, and down to close to the end of your WIP pile is a relative number for everyone. I realized that. For Brian, it was 3 or 4 pieces. He felt like he was getting really close to, you know, had his WIP pile whittled down. For me, it was more like, and Boss Daughter's going to laugh, but I think we were down to 10 or 12 of my WIPs that I had worked it down to. But then you realize, when Brian said that, I thought back and thought, yep, you end up with the ones that you've had forever. There's something hard about it. There's something about it you don't like, or it's just repetitive, or, you know, something that you don't enjoy. You don't really like the fabric or just something. Those were all the ones that are left. So then I don't stitch as much anymore because it's not stuff I enjoy stitching on. You know, you have willpower and you're like, okay, every once in a while you'll get that, I'm gonna finish this thing. I'm gonna finish it. But they all are usually huge ones that take lots of work, and yeah, your willpower lasts for days or weeks, whatever, and then you finally run out of willpower and you just don't feel like work. And so then you start doing other things instead of stitching. So that was the other thing I realized, is when I did Maynia 2018, there were so many fun things I was excited about to stitch on, and they were smaller than, I usually do great big huge stuff, but a lot of these were smaller, so I had finishes. I kept having finishes, and look at this, I finished this, and look at that, and I had so many different things to work on every month. And that was when I kind of started that rotation last fall of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday piece, a Tuesday piece, a Thursday piece, and then a weekend piece, so that I could switch it up. Because apparently in my personality, I've realized that I enjoy that. I enjoy working on several different things and switching it up every day, every hour sometimes, depending on the piece. All right, so for Maynia 2019, like I said, first I'm going to show you the 3 that did not get done. The first one is a Haid, Heaven and Earth design. And I had it all in bags, all 90-something colors. And Boss Daughter Catherine, for my birthday and Mother's Day, one of the things she decided to do, she usually does works on 2 projects for me. So this was one of them, and what she gives. I realized that on one of my videos I told you that when you hit the technical number of way too many, the bags don't work anymore, and I enjoy it better on bobbinated, which is how I used to stitch a long time ago. I had everything on bobbins, and then I switched to bags. But when it's got this many colors, it works better for me bobbinated. So she switched all of these colors from bags onto bobbins for me and put them in here. Wasn't that? And look how pretty the colors are. Look how gorgeous. That's the other thing I love about bobbins, is you can see all the colors next to each other. Sorry, I'm rambling. Oh my goodness. Let's find a picture for you so you can see what it looks like. It's not there. It's not there. Where's the picture? What did I do with the picture? I put it somewhere safe so it wouldn't get... because it keeps getting... found it. It's getting bent. So this is called a Stitcher's Shelf. I ordered, and now I'm not going to be able to remember. If you go back to my beginning of the year when I did a WIP parade, I told you all the information on there. There's a website that I found that this artist is a digital artist, and they have this pattern on that website. It's Studio something, I want to say. Studio 6, Studio 8, I can't remember. I just Googled her name and the name of this piece, and that site came up, and you can order stuff with it. And I could order a small print of it because I wanted it has so much detail in it that I wanted a really nice high resolution picture so I could look at all the detail in it while I'm stitching it. And there's a version on Heaven and Earth Designs. You can get the version with this medallion motif in the middle and the version without. The picture continues underneath. And I bought the version without, but the print I bought has it on. Clear as mud, right? It's got spring, summer, fall, winter. It's bookshelves. And all of those people, some women and some men, are characters out of those books who stitch. And they're particular characters. If you can figure out who they are, they're from a particular book where the book mentioned that that character was doing some kind of embroidery. I love the colors in this piece. I love the format of it. I love everything. I love to read. I love everything about this piece. But it's going to take me the rest of my life to finish it. And that's okay, because I love it that much. And this is how far I have gotten. Just in the top corner of all those pretty pink flowers. Started on a purple book right here, and I think there's a bright pink book underneath right here. So that's where that one is. And I did that for Mania last year on May 6th. So on May 6th, for the rest of my life, I will be working on a Stitcher shelf for at least a little while. And then that website, I also ordered the book bag, the book tote. You can get, they had a lot of her artwork and several other artists on that website too. But you could order a book bag that has it, the artwork that you choose, printed on both sides. And then of course I also had to get the little zipper bag. And that artist has done several shelves. She did one called The Mystery. Finding That Which Is Lost. I can't remember what that one's called, but I bought that. She has several designs that I love, but I'm only going to stitch this one because it's going to take me my whole life. So I thought, well, I can put it on a bag. So I got a bag with the mystery one on it, the mystery bookshelf one that she did, and I also got a bag with it's got all the animals on it, all the books about animals. So it's got animals all over it on all the shelves. I bought that one in a bag as well with the little zipper bag that goes with it. Okay, sorry, I need to move along a little faster here. One of them is Victorian Charm, which I buried in the video I just did. All the whips are now on top of it. So this was a new start for me, last year's Mania, Victorian Charm. It's a kit by Dimensions. Oh gosh. See if we can do this without losing everything. I'll sit down to stitch later and think, where is the pattern for this? What happened during the video? And this is where Victorian Charm is. I have not worked on it since the last time I showed it to you, but it will get some love. I want to say it's over half. It's around halfway. It's about halfway. The top section down to right there is completely finished with back stitching and everything. And then I just have, and this is not the ground floor. This is one floor up, which in the United States we call that the first floor. Second floor, we would call that the second floor. The ground floor, or the first floor, is still down here, and then we've got steps and a sidewalk. I mean, you get the idea. I was really hoping to have this one done by the time Mania started, but it's okay. It will just continue on. That's on the kit fabric, 18 count navy blue Ada. And I started that one on May 5th, so I will work on that again this May 5th. And by Mania 2020, it better be done. It's not going to continue on forever like the other one is. Okay, and then Twisted Band Sampler was one of my whips that I did last year for Mania on May 10th. So this was one of the 5 whips that I chose to make as part of my Mania in 2018. And here's the dark green. I'll have several rows of medium green, and then I'll have a couple rows of light green. And right when it switches from green to blue is where we hit the corner bottom edge, and then the diagonals will start getting shorter. So At least halfway. I think a little over halfway. My brain won't do that math right now, but I think that's over halfway. Yes, because we'd be done with the full length bands, and we would just be doing the shorter ones like this, only down here. All right, so those are the 3 I had left from last year. Now we get to talk about all the new stuff, right? So here's my list for 2019 because I'm an organizer and I have to have a list. You don't have to have a list. You can do it however you want. For my 5 WIPs then for this year, I already have 3 that I didn't finish from last year. A Stitch Yourself, Victorian Charm, and Twisted Band Sampler. Then I'm going to do Shepherd's Fold by Shepherd's Bush. It's this one right here. It's a box top for a round Quaker box. I can't think of what that box is called now. And then there's things that go in the box. I have finished the box top, not fully finished, but finished stitching it. And I have finished the pin pillow, stitching it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 little things to go just to finish that one. That will not take very long. It just needs to get done. But that is a Shepherd's Fold by Shepherd's Bush. So that will be one of my WIPs. And then the other WIP will be my French. I don't speak French. Maisons et Nichoirs. Does that sound French? I'm pretty sure it translates. I looked it up once. I translated it on my computer, and it's French birdhouses or birdhouses. I can't remember. Bird houses with birds, something like that. I call it French birdhouses because it's by Mon Ami Pierre, which is a French designer. So in my head, it's just the French birdhouses. But it's, here, I'll show you. It's this bottom one right here. That's how it's spelled. By Mon Ami Pierre, if you're interested in it. And I'll put it in the description box below. And it is right here, I hope. This is what the pattern looks like. That would be easier to show you, actually. I bought it at my LNS, but it was several years ago. So I don't know if it's still out there to buy new. The leaflet showed it on blue, and then it also showed it on this color, and I liked it. I really liked it on this color, so I chose fabric that was closer to that. Catherine took this home one year for my birthday is right next to Mother's Day, so she says, when I was newly married and poor, for your birthday, she came up with the idea of stitching on a couple of my pieces every year for Mother's Day and my birthday that I was sick of, that just needed a little jump start. So she takes 2 pieces home every year and works on them. This year she kitted up, she bobbinated all that floss for me on a Stitch Yourself, and then she took home, gosh, I showed it to you. It's in my WIP parade at the beginning of the year, and then I showed it to you several weeks ago. That one I call French Alphabet because it has a French name. But that's the one she took home this year to work on for me. It has the roses, that great big huge complicated rose border, and I really hate complicated repetitive borders because it's like doing a small piece over and over and over and over again. So she took it home to work on the border for me. She's so fabulous. And then my other daughter, Marie, is the one who organizes all of the events for me because I am an organizer of things like nobody's business, but I do not organize people. That just stresses me out. So Bossy Daughter is my social secretary organizer. So if we're having a party of any kind, Marie organizes it for me. Bossy Daughter. She's awesome. All right, here's where I am so far. There is no back stitching in this piece. It is all full cross stitch. Oh, and Catherine took it home the one year and did 2-3 years ago. She did that white picket fence all the way to the end. And I'm always complaining about, I love houses. Almost everything I stitch has a house on it, but I hate that the windows are so repetitive that you have to do so many of them in a row all the same. So she did some of the windows on the houses so that I wouldn't have to do all the windows. That was funny of her to think of doing that for me. But that's where that is. It is on... Oh, I need to add that to this list. I don't suppose I wrote it. Oh, it's on 40 count pear, is what my note says. And you know how pear is with fabric. You never know what color it's really going to be. It looks kind of a yellowy, it's a very yellowy green, is what this piece turned out to be. And it is one strand of, can you tell I haven't worked on this forever? I'm excited to work on it because I haven't worked on it for a long time. All right, let's find the... I am using the called for Gentle Arts thread, Gast. Simply, looks like some of them are Simply Shaker and some of them are not. Some of them are Simply Shaker and some of them are sampler threads. And I think I was kitting it up at my LNS when I bought it, I remember, and there were some of the Gentle Arts floss colors that it called for that she didn't have. So I just chose, it looks like I have a couple of, oh no, these are all sampler threads. So all Gentle Art, either sampler threads or Simply Shaker is what it calls for. And that is what I'm using, the called for threads. Gosh, 5 minutes to say that one thing, I'm sorry. Okay, so those will be the 5 WIPs. Then I decided for this year, last fall I realized, as I was finishing up some Maynia stuff, is kind of what I was doing last fall, that I love working on a piece that is for that season. And if you do a really big piece, then, you know, it takes you a couple of years to finish it, and you don't only feel like working on it if it's a October piece. In October, for me, I'm weird that way. I'm just like, oh, I really feel like working on a fall piece in, you know, September and October. And then in December, don't feel like it anymore. January, February, no. But if it's a huge piece and that's the only time I work on it, it takes forever to get done. So my thinking was, for Maynia, I should do a small-ish piece, which for me, that's a relative term as well, depending on what you stitch, what you usually stitch on. But for me, a small-ish piece is around 100 by 100. I could finish that in a month. So I thought I should do a piece for each month of the year that's about 100 by 100, and then I'd have that seasonal piece to work on each month. So my Maynia plan this year was to do 12 seasonal pieces that were not too big. Except for not May, because May is Maynia. And what I did last year, and I'm going to do it again this year because I liked it so much, was I'm doing 19 Maynia pieces for the first 19 days in May. I'll work on one each day. And then on the 20th, I just start over again at number 1 and do them all again, which takes me, you know, into the first week of June. So they all got 2 days on them because I'm still so excited to work on all of them. And then I'll start on my June piece. Okay, so for the seasonal, well, they're not going to come out of the basket in order, so I'm just going to tell you. So I did 11 seasonal pieces that are mostly smaller. There's a couple in there that are definitely not. And then that left me 11 plus 5 is 16. So I still had 3 more slots to fill because it's 2019 this year and I wanted to do 19 pieces. So I just chose 3 pieces out of my stash that I've been wanting to stitch for a really long time. All right. I've been kitting them all up in 2-gallon Ziploc bags and I've been working on it for 6 or 8 months. Because last year was such a last minute throw it together thing, and I knew I was going to do it again this year, and anticipation is half the fun, right? So 6 or 8 months ago I thought, ooh, I should start gathering some stuff for Maynia next year, because when you have to buy stuff and you have to buy it all at once, that's a lot of money all at once. But if you do it a little bit at a time, it's not so bad. So I started kitting, choosing patterns. Took me months and months. Oh, maybe this one. No, maybe this one. Thinking about what I wanted to do. And so I've been working on it for a while. So I just started in these 2-gallon bags and started putting things in the bags as I got a hold of them. And then this last week I worked really hard on getting it all ready. So one of the things I realized last year was that I wasn't spending, well, no, that should be last. We'll talk about this one. During Mania, you only have that one day to work on it. Well, you want to get as much done in that one day as possible. Well, last year, because it was such a last-minute thing, I was spending half my stitching time. Which way does the fabric go? Cutting the fabric to size. Because all I had done was just gather all the materials I needed and throw it in there really fast. Oh. Are the colors organized? Did I just throw the colors in the bag? Are they on any kind of a ring or on bobbins? So it would take me 15, 20 minutes just to get half an hour maybe to get it before I could maybe put in that first stitch. Does that make sense? And then I'd spend the whole time, especially if I was at work on my lunch half hour or away from home somewhere else and I had taken it with me because I knew I wasn't going to be able to stitch later that day. It drove me nuts through the whole thing. I just kept thinking, oh, as soon as I can get this mess organized for this piece, I will feel so much. So I stitched on it, but the whole time I was stitching on it, I was thinking, oh, this floss just needs to be put in baggies. Oh, it's driving me crazy. So, and that's just me. I'm an organizer. I'm not saying you have to be that way. I'm just saying that for me, that was driving me crazy. So I knew this year, since I had all the time to anticipate and have fun working on it, because you can't start till May 1st, so you're I thought I would get it all organized ahead of time. So that the minute I sat down on that day in May, I literally only had to get a piece of floss, put it on the needle, and start. And didn't have to waste my time figuring out how to, because it takes you a minute to figure out how to start a piece, right? So that was one of the things I've been doing this week. All right, so one of my new starts, I had a sticky note on each piece where I was keeping track of what I still needed for that piece, what fabric I'm using, how big the fabric needed to be, what was still left to buy. So that's what that is. I'll be doing Prairie Schooler Harvest Time, just this one right here. I've seen several of you stitch on this and finish it, and I just love it. Love it. So that's one of my Mania starts. I'm going to be doing it on 40 count Silk Weaver Grassy Plain. So I took time this week to cut each piece of fabric to the size it needs to be. I also took a piece of thread and just ran it. I just ran it through the very middle. I wasn't paying attention to how many threads I went under or anything. I just went under a little bit of fabric and tied a knot. So now I know exactly where the middle is on this fabric, so that when I pull it out, I can just start. I don't have to waste time figuring out where the middle of the fabric is. And then if there was any question on if I might be confused as to whether the fabric went this way or this way, because I did that last year on one of my Mania pieces and worked on it for an hour before I realized that my fabric was going the wrong direction. So I had to pull it all out and start again. This one is a very obviously long and narrow this way. So I didn't think there was any way that I was going to mistake that whether it went this way or this way. So I didn't worry about it. But if there was any question, if I might wonder which way it went, I also tied a piece of thread and knotted it at the top. So I knew which way, so I didn't have to sit there and figure that out either. I can just pull it out and go, oh, here's the top, here's the middle, let's start stitching. Sometimes I start in the middle, sometimes I come in down from the edge. If I know that my fabric, I like to do a 3-inch border all the way around. So if I know the fabric has at least a 3-inch border all the way around, then sometimes I would start at the top corner right here or here. And you just get a 3x3 post-it note, or there's cute little cardboard things you can buy at a store or on 123 Stitch or a Etsy. It's a little set of pieces of cardboard that come in 3x3, 2x2, 4x4. And then but if you're just using a Post-it note, you just put a Post-it note right at the corner of the fabric. You know, line it up so it's right into the corner, and then you know that this is going to be, that you have your 3-inch border and this is going to be the corner of your piece. But don't do that unless you know for sure that your fabric is big enough to have a 3-inch border all the way around. Or whatever, maybe you do 2-inch border, so then you would come in, get a 2x2 piece of paper or Post-it note or piece of cardboard and just come into the corner of it and know that you're going to start right there. Or if you start in the middle of a piece, then mark the middle and start in the middle. I've done it both ways. It kind of depends on the piece, how I want to do it. If I'm worried about the fabric, like I didn't have enough fabric to be a 3-inch border all the way around, then, and I know that I'm only going to have barely 1.5 inches on both sides, or, you know, I'm worried about it, then I'll start in the middle to make sure that it's centered. Does that make sense? Okay, 1. Sorry, I promise this is going to get faster. Oh, I've been wanting to do a long dog for so long, and I'm doing 2 this time. This is called Day and Night by Long Dog Samplers, and I love it. It says, day and night, sun and moon, air and light, everyone must have and none can buy. And look at the border. There's little houses all the way around. And even though they repeat the houses, every time they repeat, it's a different color from the last house. So that will be fun. And the trees are a little bit different colors too, all the way around. I'm doing it on 40 count. Picture this plus Valor in overdyed green. It's beautiful. And this one calls for like 50-ish colors, which also hits that technical number of way too many for me to be in baggies on a ring. It just drives me crazy when you hit the line of too many. Sorry, I don't know what number that is, but this one was definitely going to be too many, so I put it in one of the little mini. Bobbinated it. Took me a couple of hours the other night and put it in a mini box. 2. I brought my calendar home. The video that shows me with the quilt, with the Sunbonnet Sue quilt behind me, that's where I showed you the last time I showed you my Fun Everyday calendar, if you want to go see that. I have it at work. It looks like this. They're on perforated paper, glued to cards, and they flip over. It's a perpetual calendar. And when I explained it to you in that other video, if you want to go see it, I don't have a seasonal card for January or March. I have a seasonal card for every other month of the year, but not those 2. So 2 of my Maynia new starts will be a January one, and then March will be a separate piece for Maynia purposes. So I went ahead and cut the perforated paper to the right size and got all the floss I would need. This is the one where I am adapting some Bent Creek winter arches and spring arches. These are about the right size to fit. These leaflets, you know, it comes with all the number. You have to buy all 12 leaflets to do the whole perpetual calendar. There's 4 cards in each leaflet. So you get all the numbers, you get all the months, the card that tells you what month you're on. You get all the days of the week, you get all the months of the year, and you get all the numbers. But this slot right here is kind of a seasonal slot. So I have all of these. I just don't have enough in this slot to have one for every month, and I wanted to have one for every month. And the leaflets don't come with enough of those for every month. So if you go back and watch that other video, I created several, and then I was just done with the calendar, and I just wanted to be done. But now that it's been a couple years since I finished it, it's bugging me at work, but there's not one for January and March in that last slot. So I am going to adapt this. What did I decide? The house. I'm going to do the house for the January card, and I'm going to do these birds, this bird nest with this mama bird and these baby birds for March. Because March is such a hard month. Sometimes it's Easter, but not usually. And it's muddy spring. You know, it's not, the flowers aren't up yet where I live. It's just a lot of mud and wind, but it is warmer. But the thing I noticed this year in March was that I could hear the birds singing outside. That made me, so March makes me think of birds. So I will just adapt. Those patterns are about the right size. I'll just adapt them a little bit. I'll do the same, this same black and white border that goes around all the other ones. This same sweet potato, Weeks Dye Works sweet potato. I can still tell you what color that is. Stripe that goes across every one of them. I'll stitch that in first. I'll make the motif fit from those designs. And then I will just choose one of these backgrounds from the leaflets so that it kind of matches. I'll choose a background in a color that I think looks good and fill it in behind. Clear as mud, right? Okay, so that's 2. That counts as 2. This one is the Witchy, it's by the Witchy Stitcher, and it's called Back to the Future. You are my density. I mean, you are my destiny. And it has the DeLorean on there. The Trail of Fire. When you get up to, oh, see, I told you I'm losing my mind today. 88 miles an hour? Can't remember now. Oh, my word. My husband and I were, I was going to look up the year. I want to say I was in my teens when this first movie of this trilogy came out. Loved it as a teenager. My husband loves to play with words like this where he says the wrong word. We've laughed and laughed about this line from that movie. So when I saw this, the Witchy Stitcher, I thought that would be the funniest anniversary piece for us. So I'm going to stitch that and I'll put our names. I think we've been married for 33 years, maybe 30 something. I got married in 86 and this is 2019. So yes, 33 years we're coming up on. So maybe I'll make it our 30th anniversary and I'll put the dates for our, to be our 30th anniversary. The day we got married and what 30th anniversary would be. Or maybe I'll actually make it the 33rd anniversary piece. That would be fun. Maybe I'll just do that. I'm doing that on black. 18 count black linen. With the called for floss, which I took the time on all of these as well to either bobbinate them and put them in the box or to put them in their bags on a ring. I am at a point in my life right now where I can, DMC floss is not that expensive for me. I was not always in that situation. And it's just easier for me. So I know that you can have a master set of DMC floss that you keep all together in some kind of container. And then all your Maynia starts that all call for DMC, you're just pulling, you just pull the color out and then put it back in. So you're using that one set of floss for all of your pieces. I have enough DMC built up, and then it wasn't that much more money to buy all the rest of the DMC that I needed to kit all of these up so that each piece is kitted all by itself. That all the threads for this piece are right here. I just, when I do it in baggies like this, which is my preferred method, I just buy the skein and I throw it in the bag and I do label it with what, and I do reuse these bags, which is why I scribbled out. Then I write the name on there because when I'm flipping through looking for the color I want, it's really nice to see it on the bag and not have to, you know how as soon as you pick it up for sure, you're on the side of the label that doesn't have the number. And you're doing this, and there's floss on top of it, and you're trying to figure out what number it is. That drives me crazy. So I always write the number on the outside of the bag. When I'm ready to use this floss, I will just pull this skein out. I'll pull the two labels off of it, and I'll just get a hold of this end right here. I'll just put it in my lap, and I'll just pull that end out for however much I want, and cut it, and throw all the rest of it back in the bag. And then when I'm done with the piece I'm working on, I just wrap it around my fingers really quick and stuff it in the bag. I've never had threads get tangled in here. I literally, so you cut that piece off, the 6-stranded piece, then you pull the piece out of that to stitch with. So now you've got the rest of your skein, you've got the rest of the piece with the other 5 strands in it, and then you've got the piece that you just finished using that all need to go back in the bag, right? So the piece that has 5 strands in it still, I rolled up that on my fingers and stuffed it in there. And then when I finished stitching and still had this much left of my single strand, I wrapped that around my fingers and stuffed it in there. And they're just stuffed in there. If I see one that shows you several, I'll show it to you, but I've never had a problem with it getting tangled. And that way there's not a lot of prep work. I already cut this, and this piece of fabric, and I already marked the middle with a thread, which you probably can't see because it's a dark color. Oh, do you know what? It's Aida. It's 18 count Aida, black Aida. Because if I'm working on black, Aida is not my preferred fabric to work on, mostly just because it's so stiff. I want to try stitching Jules, Jules. Did a little video where she showed how you can soak your Aida fabric for a couple hours and then let it dry, and then it's much softer. I need to try that. Oh, gosh, I could do that now. If I think ahead, I could do that on this and see how it feels. Because I don't mind stitching on Aida. It's really the feel of it that I don't like because it's just so stiff. All right, I'm doing Elizabeth Designs, Little Red Door, Little Leaf Designs, but down here it says Elizabeth's Designs. Oh, maybe there's a series of these that all go together. I'm not sure. It comes with the red, an overdyed red for this. It is Weeks Dye Works Lancaster red that it comes with, enough floss to stitch the door. And then it also comes, because I had it out of its bag last night, now it comes with this little cat charm. It's right there. Can you see it? Hiding. Because of course I've sandwiched it between everything else in the bag. There we go. I love the design. In fact, this was a birthday gift, I believe, from my brother Walter and his wife Juliana. Gave this to me several years ago. I've been wanting to stitch it forever. I was not fond of this purple and this yellow together. These flowers are a purple. So I took the time last night to pull it out, decide what colors I was going to use, because, you know, I'll just throw everything in the bag and go, I'll worry about that when I start on it. Well, no, that's what drove me crazy last year. I just need to sit down and figure it out first. So I pulled all of it has a DMC. It calls for all DMC, except for this one red that they give you. The rest of it calls for DMC. So I pulled the DMC colors, thought about what colors I wanted to change it to. I'm just going to do yellow flowers that are yellow on the middle and yellow on the outside. This is Crescent Colors Crushed Pineapple, and it has quite a wide it has some really light yellow in it and some really dark yellow in it. So I will probably pull a length out and manipulate the colors so that I'm doing a light yellow in the middle of the flower and the darker yellow where the purple is. It just means you have to pull out a length of floss and then cut it so that you've got where it's darker, and use that piece where you want dark, and then cut it a lighter section out of the floss and use that where you want it lighter. And then I'm going to change these pots. Oh, I keep doing that. These gold pots down here, I'm going to change them to a crab cake. It's not Crescent Colors anymore. Classic Colorworks crab cakes. Kind of like a terracotta pot. Instead of the gray porch, I'm going to do peanut brittle. What did I just say it was? Classic Colorworks peanut brittle. More of kind of stone steps. Sandstone steps, maybe. I'm using spinach as the green. Classic Colorworks spinach as the green vine. And then this Lancaster red that came with it doesn't have a lot of variation in this particular dye of Lancaster red. I know some do, some don't. And you know how you can get a whole range of different, if you went and bought a whole bunch of Lancaster, Weeks Dye Works Lancaster red, They all look a little different, right? And this one just, I wanted it to be more variegated and a little bit of a different red. So I actually pulled out Classic Colorworks bandana. And even I have like 6 skeins of bandana, and they're all completely different from each other. So this one skein of bandana was a red that I really like. So I'm actually going to use that red. Oh, and I'm doing it on green mystery fabric that I pulled out of my stash, and I need to cut it. And that was one thing I haven't done yet, because obviously that's not going to work. But I will cut it. That's the other thing I have to remember is when you're working on something this small, if I cut the fabric too small and I want to use it on maybe an 8x8 Q-snap, if you cut it smaller than 8x8, it's not going to go on that Q-snap. And I don't stitch in hand. It makes my hands hurt too much. So I either have to do it on a small, here's one right here. There's 2 sizes of stretcher bars you can buy. This thick of wood or these little thin ones. So when I'm doing something really small like that, that's too small to fit on the Q-snaps, sometimes I'll thumbtack it to a little frame, stretcher bar frame like this. You can buy these at Michael's, any craft store that sells like paint, and because painters stretch canvas on these and paint on them. They're used for several different things, but you buy it in these 2 pieces come together and these 2 pieces come together so that you can make whatever size you want. That makes sense. And then you have to put it together yourself. The ends go together like this. They just slide together. If it's really tight, sometimes I have to get out a hammer and make sure it's all together. So I might do, and I need to do that and not wait until the day I start it, right? Figure out what I'm going to put it on and pull it out. And if I'm going to use this with thumbtacks, actually thumbtack it to the thing today. Or cut the fabric big enough that it will, even though the design is going to be itty bitty, at least cut the fabric big enough that it will fit on an 8x8 Q-snap if that's what I want to stitch it on. All right, moving right along. Next is my other long dog sampler. I am so excited about this one. It's called, where's the name? Oh, right here at the end. Arcade. The letter R dash K-A-D-E. Arcade. And it's, look at it. It's trees. It's these most beautiful trees, and they're all different, so I don't have to stitch the same thing over and over again. This band right here, that's going to be the part that kills me because it is very repetitive. But all of these are different from each other. The bottoms are all different from each other. I love trees. I love green. I love gardens. It's got a beautiful alphabet right across there. It says, "Cares of tomorrow can wait until this day is done." And I love the sentiment. It's got the year. There's 20. And then this one says 15. I'll change it to whatever. Do you put the year you start it, or do you put the year you finish it? I might have to leave those last 2 off so I could put the year I finished it. But this is just kind of one of those one color charts. It doesn't call for a color. It's just, most people do it as a solid color or an over-dyed color, which is what I'm going to do. So I chose, if you watched my last video, that is the silks that I ordered from Silks for You. I ordered a hank of silk, which is 240 meters, from this Etsy shop, Silks for You. She's in Australia, so you need to give her a good, 2 weeks to get it to you. I think I got mine in I ordered a color, got it in a week and a half, 2 weeks, realized I wanted some more variation in the color, so then I ordered a different color and got that one like a week and a half later. She sent me a cute little magnet, free magnet with it, my order. So I knew that I wanted this to look like a forest, like a green where the light's just barely dappling in, a lot of trees, so it's kind of shady in there, green dappled, shady, you know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I have no words today. My brain has gone on vacation. So I chose 40 count Picture This Plus Conifer. This is a very dark green. It's showing kind of brown, more browns on the camera, but it's not. It's very green. It's a dark green. Because I loved how on here the background is dark and the stitching is light. I love the way that looks. So I chose a darker fabric. This was the first hank that I ordered, and it is beautiful, beautiful silk. And it would have looked perfect on here, but it doesn't have a lot of variegation in it, color change. It has a little bit, but it mostly looks like one color. So I will find another piece for this gorgeous hank of silk. It will cost $30. Her hanks of silk are $30. I don't remember how much shipping it was, but it was less than $10. $5 or $6, I can't remember. It wasn't outrageous. It's nothing I paid attention to. It wasn't like it cost $30 for floss and then $30 for shipping, you know, something like that. It was $5 or $6 maybe. Might have been $3. I don't remember, but sorry, I should have looked that up. So then I got back on her Etsy store and looked at the colors again, trying to decide, because I really, if I'm going to stitch this whole big huge piece, it's, where's the paper that I lost already? It's 433 stitches by 208. It's big. I mean, look at the piece of fabric that I have cut and marked the middle of already. It's a big piece. I really love it when the color, you can see color changes. When you're using one color of over-dyed floss, I want to see the color change. So I got this beautiful, it's got some green, some brown, some orangey, orange yellowish, yellow, a very fall tree. This looks like a fallish tree to me. And I think it is going to be gorgeous on this fabric. I think this is going to be so fun. The brown parts are going to kind of merge into the background of that dark color fabric, and the lighter colors are going to come out. So I'm hoping it will, when you look at it, it will look like you're looking into a forest that's very shaded with just little bits of dappled sun coming in, where the sun comes in some places and it doesn't in others. I don't know. We'll have to see how it turns out, but I'm very excited. So this hank is one continuous piece of silk in a circle. She's tied it in a couple of places so it doesn't turn into some big, huge, tangled mess. So I think what I'm going to do when I'm stitching on my piece, I want to get through all of the colors before I start a new piece of floss. I don't want to cut it and have some of the pieces that I cut be more yellows and browns, and other pieces that I cut more greens and yellows, so that you might accidentally pick, as you finish a strand and pick up another one, you might accidentally get the green and brown one over and over again and not get the yellows and the, do you know what I'm trying to say? So when I think I'm going to cut this between two colors, like right here. It looks like each color repeats. Like there's two of these sections. There are two brown sections. But I still think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it once, right in between two colors, like right there. And I'll just leave them as these really, they'll be twice as long as this, right? When I cut the circle and make it one big long piece. I'll take 10 or 20, wrap them around my finger and stick them in a bag. And then I'll take 10 or 20 more, wrap them around my finger and stick those in another bag. It's just that really long piece, and it'll have all the colors twice on it. And then every time I sit down to stitch, I will pull one long strand out of that, and I'll cut it into either thirds or half, a workable length for silk. But I will use up all of that piece. I'll have them in the corner of my baggie where I can see that it's just one strand rolled up. I'll use that whole strand before I start on the next one, so that I'm sure I'm not going to manipulate it so that when I end with brown, I'm always going to start a piece with the brown and then into yellow. I'm not that picky. It's just going to be whatever it turns out to be is what. I'm not going to go in stripes across so that the colors go across in a certain order. I'm not. I'm going to stitch some here, stitch some here, stitch over there, stitch over there. But I will use that whole piece that I pulled out before I start on another piece that has all the colors in it, so that I'm always stitching with all of the colors. I hope that made some kind of sense. Please let me know if it didn't. And this is color on her website. It's PR114 if you're looking for that exact same color. I don't know what the color the other one is because I took it out of its bag when I got here. I'm sorry. It's kind of a yellowy green, and it is gorgeous. All right, so that's Arcade, and I can't wait to start that. Oh, I kind of like stitching with one color monochromatic. The first time I really ever did it was the Alessandra Adelaide major ornament that I did, that I showed at the end of the year because it was a finish. I finished it in December, I think, if you want to go back and see that. It was all one color, and I didn't think I was going to like it, and I really did. It's so mindless to just sit down and stitch and not have to worry about what color you're using and switching colors. So I don't know that I would work on a piece like this for months at a time and be a one at a timer on this. I think that I would get burned out. But this might become my new Shores piece where I work on it like an hour every day or something, just to get, I don't know, we'll have to see. I can't wait. All right, this one's been in my stash forever, and I'm pretty sure I showed it to you once as what I wish I was stitching. This is Mirabilia's Sleeping Princess. I love the colors in that. I think that is the most gorgeous thing. And it's bigger as well. Just look at the paper, because that's where I wrote it down. It's 214 by 313. It calls for Beach Walk, I think, the fabric. 32 count Beach Walk by Witchelt. I couldn't find that, so I just picked a piece that I liked that kind of looked like the picture. This is 28 count Water Lily. So it's a very light green. And I did do 28 count, even though I don't usually stitch on 28 count, because it has a lot of beads, and the beads need to be able to fit. Here's all the beads that are going to go on it. Oh, it's going to be such a beauty. Gorgeous. And this was the only other one that I put in a small box like this, because it had quite a few colors as well. Too many to be in baggies for me. Oh, and I was finished. Did I show you I saw this needle minder forever ago and knew I had this pattern in my stash and bought it just because I knew I had this pattern in my stash and these had to go together. So this is the needle minder. I'm sorry I don't know where I got it, but it was on Etsy. But it's the Princess and the Pea. She had to go with the Princess and the Pea. I don't usually buy magnets for things that are just in my stash that I'm not like planning on starting soon, except for that one, because it was so perfect and I don't know if I'd ever see it again. All right, sorry, moving on. Stitchrovia, Summertime. Love those colors. As you can tell, I am in a bright color phase. This one is only 110 by 140. Only. And I am doing it on 32 count white Lugana, because I want those colors to be clear and nice and not be any kind of distracted from the fabric. I think they'll look better on white. And these are the beautiful bright colors that are going to be in it. It's going to be gorgeous. That's summer. That's probably July or August. The piece I chose for July or August of my monthly pieces. This is also Stitchrovia. Let It Snow. Both of these Stitch Rovia I bought as PDF downloads, and then I printed them on my color printer and put them in a plastic sleeve. But I could print, I have stitched from my computer before. I did that on Words to Live By last month, just stitched it from the computer. Or maybe it was Seize the Day. And it worked okay, but I'd rather have it printed in paper and folded up on my stitching so I don't have to look away. This one is 99 by 140, and I am doing it on 40 count Silk Weaver Cascade fabric. It's this beautiful blue over-dyed fabric. I love it. I think it's going to be gorgeous. And these are the beautiful bright colors that are in that one as well. It also, this year, man, I'm in a phase. I must have gotten, with the Swan Sampler Guild that I belonged to for years. It's disbanded now, but we still get together, some of the people from it. I did so many samplers that were, which I love, and I still love them. I still have several I need to finish, and I'll still work on them, but they are not bright colors. I think I got burned out on not bright colors, and now I'm all about bright colors. Okay, this one is Drawn Thread. It's their gardens. They have an autumn garden, a spring garden, summer, and winter. Brian at Blitz Stitch is doing a stitch along. He's going to start his in May, I think, as well. But he invited anyone who wanted to stitch it with him and just said I'm going to be, a couple months ago, said I'm going to start it this summer sometime. And so I bought all 4 of them. I have all 4 of them. When he very first talked about it, because I looked at that and thought that is gorgeous. So here's spring. Here is summer. And here is winter. They also have these beautiful pictures on the back. Give you a little bit of close-up. Originally, I thought about stitching them all on the same piece of fabric vertically in a row. In fact, Catherine and I were talking about that the last time my daughter was on the video with me. And I told her I was going to stitch them out of order because I wanted to do autumn first, and I was going to have to baste in where everything went so I could start autumn first, or maybe I'd stitch them out of order, and her eye started to twitch. Oh, that was funny. But since then, I've changed my mind. I think I'm also going to do these like Priscilla and Chelsea, the Real Housewives of Cross Stitch. I'm going to do them each on a separate piece of fabric because they're all of their models are stitched on a different color of fabric that goes with the season, and they're beautiful the way they did it. I think I'm going to stitch them all on a separate piece of fabric and do it somehow so it's a frame that's got metal in it so you can put a magnet on the back and switch it out for the seasons. I think that'd be awesome. So for this autumn piece one, I'm going to use Silk Weaver Sand. I had all this fabric in my stash. No, I didn't go buy all this fabric. 90% of it I already had in my stash. And it is 40 count. And I'm using the called for colors, which was quite a few different fancy floss. There's specialty stitches in these, and they do call for fancy floss. There is some water lilies, some dinky dyes, some NPI silks, some silken colors, several brands of silks. It's going to be gorgeous. Alrighty. Catherine gave me this for my birthday, or Christmas, several years ago, I don't remember. This is called Patchwork Sampler by Jan Houtman. And it is Quakers, and I love Quaker medallions. Love doing those. When she gave this to me several years ago, I was in the middle of, I might have had one of them done. I had 3 chatelaines going at the same time for a long time. And I can't remember when she gave this to me. I think I had finished one of them. Well, when you finish a chatelaine, you've got all these fancy floss left over that you're certainly not going to get rid of because it's all beautiful fancy floss. So I kept them all. I had them I had a box where I kind of kept all my leftover silks and fancy floss in there. And I thought to myself, I've got 3 chatelaines that are all going to have all this beautiful fancy floss left over. I should do this when I'm done with all 3 chatelaines. I should do this piece and just use all the leftover fancy floss for all these different Quakers. It kind of reminds me of a patchwork quilt. You just use the floss that you have. It's not planned. I'm curious if there's a floss list for this pattern. There probably is. No, there is not. Well, there's symbols though. There's different symbols, I guess, so you know that you changed to a different color. But unless I've lost a... Oh, no. Oh, I'm wrong. There is a list of colors in case you want it to look just like his. But to me, that doesn't look like a planned palette. Although I'm sure he did, because he's a fabulous designer. He probably chose all these colors on purpose. But when I saw that, I thought patchwork. I thought, no, I am going to use my leftover fancy floss. So I have now finished all 3 of my chatelaine designs. I did Evening in the Park, Alpine Seasons, and Medieval Town Mandala. That was the last one I finished last fall. If you want to go see that, it's... And I showed you all 3 of them. Again, I think when I finished the last one. Gosh, that's a good question. Anyway. I'm going to do it on 36 count white. It might be a barely off-white, not maybe plain white linen, because I'm using all these different colors of floss, so I kind of needed a neutral fabric that they'd all look good on. Okay, this was the leftovers. No, this is just all my Gloriana silks, because this is how I keep them in a box on a ring like this. So I just pulled out all my Gloriana silk, and then this is all my leftovers fancy floss that I have from those 3 chatelaines and a couple other designs. And I just went through the whole box of leftover fancy floss and pulled. There were some colors that I was just like, no, that's not going to look good in there. But anything I thought would look good, I threw in this bag. So this is literally going to be a bag of fancy floss. And whenever it's time to switch to the next color, I'll just choose one and switch to the next color. I'm not going to worry about it too much. What did I just do with that? I'm not going to worry about 2 colors too much. I mean, obviously, if I just stitched a red one, I'm not going to stitch another reddish color right next to it. I'll try and choose a color that looks good next to that color and is something different. But other than that, I am not going to plan this out. It's just going to be like a sampler patchwork quilt where you're just using your old pieces of fabric that you have left over. We're almost done, I promise. All right, this is Soda Stitch, Sky Blue Street. Oh, I love this piece. So it is really long, but really skinny. It is a 546 stitches by 97. It's only 97 stitches high. And I'm also doing this from that same piece of 36 count linen that I had. And because it was such a long, narrow piece, and I was trying to make it exact because I needed the rest of the fabric to do for that other piece. So I didn't have I didn't have anything to play with. In fact, this is going to have smaller margins than I usually have because I needed this 36-inch long piece of fabric. So I wanted the rest of the yard to be usable. So what I did was I cut, the selvage was running along. This is the selvage edge that has that weird stuff on it. It's bound edge. On my piece, this was running along the 36-inch length of the piece of fabric that I had. So I knew I was going to have to cut it along the 36 because my fabric was only 34 and a half inches long. And I needed a 33.3, no, because then I switched to 36 count. Anyway, I knew I was going to need the whole length, but a long skinny piece. So, and you know, when you're cutting linen, if you're not careful, I try and just kind of eyeball the threads so I can kind of go straight. I don't stay right on one thread, but I kind of eyeball them so I'm not going way off this way when I cut linen. But this one was so skinny that any error was going to be a problem. So on this one, I actually pulled a thread. I had a whole yard of this linen, which was why it was 36 inches long. I measured over 10 inches because that's all. It's going to have a 2-inch border instead of the 3-inch border that I usually do. But that was because I needed the rest of the fabric for something else. So this is 10 inches. So I measured over 10 inches, made a mark, chose a thread that was about right there on the 10 inches on my whole big piece of fabric. And then I carefully pulled that thread out all the way down. You can kind of get a hold of it and pull that out a little bit, and then you can kind of get a hold of it, needle, and pull it out a little more. Anyway, I actually removed that thread from my great big piece of fabric all the way down. And it leaves a very distinct trail you can see of where you pulled that thread out. And then I was just able to go with my scissors and follow that trail along, so that this is exactly, if I counted the threads of however many threads fit in 10 inches on 36 count, what would that be, 360? Because it's 36 threads per inch and it's 10 inches. This is exactly 360 threads wide all the way down, because I pulled a thread because I wanted to cut it exact. I don't usually take the time to cut linen that exact, but on this piece I knew it had to be straight or it was going to be a disaster. All right, and I'm using the called for DMC floss on this one. Some beautiful bright colors in that one. Can't wait to start that. I think my favorite thing on here is the bicycle. Where is the bicycle? Oh, see it right? That bicycle right there. I love that bicycle. And they did a couple of different layouts down here where they took the phone booth and put it next to the bicycle with the beach behind. They kind of took a couple of elements out and put them together in a different way. Phone booth's over here, bicycle's right here, and then the background to the beach is down here. And they give you that chart in here of those couple of little extra layouts that they did were a little bit different. They give you those in the back. I love their charts. They're beautiful, color, easy to read. Fabulous charts, sew to stitch. I think there's only 2 left. Oh, and this one I was going to do this for Maynia, but then I decided not to. But I'll show it to you since it's right here. This is Brooks Books. You go to the Brooks Books designer website. Brooks Books. They have some free patterns on their website called Advent Animals. And there's 25 of them. There's one for each day, counting up till Christmas. And they're on this beautiful light blue fabric. But there's Katie Kitty, Rudolph Reindeer. I'm sure they've been around for several years. I'm sure you've seen them on other Flosstube channels. Deborah Donkey. And they each have the number on it. They're numbered. Like this is number 1 for December 1st. This is number 2 for December 2nd. I think. Can't tell. Anyway, they're numbered all the way through to 24, 25. Can't remember now what the last... 25. So there's 25 cute little animals. I've seen them stitched all on one piece of fabric. I've seen them... I would love to do each one as a separate little pillow with a little hanger and then have some kind of... I don't know, you'd have to have a wooden box or something where you could hang them all up with the little pegs on it, so you could hang, maybe like my thread board back here, something like that, so you could hang them each one up each day of December, add another one. But I hate fully finishing. Hate it. Do I have a sewing machine and a serger? Yes, I do. Do I have to use them sometimes because I want the project? Do I know how to use them? Yes. Do I enjoy it? No. So I knew I would never get them all finished into little pillows. This was the fabric I had chosen for it. It is Silk Weaver Seaside Melody. It's beautiful blue fabric. I saw them stitched all together on one piece of fabric and didn't really like how it looked, so then I was trying to decide what to do. I think I will stitch them eventually, but I think I'm going to stitch them all on separate pieces of fabric and do the Priscilla and Chelsea thing, where I make some cute little Christmas framey thing that's got metal in the back, and then I'll put a little magnet on the back of each one of these and just change it out every day. On December 1st, we'll have Katie Kitty, and then we'll take that off on December 2nd and put the second on. Maybe I'll do them at work. That would be fun. But I decided not to start that for Maynia this year. It was just too big of a project. Okay, last one of the actual Maynia pieces. We're almost done. This is called Utopie. The designer is Camille Colget-Camps. She's in France. The website that you can get this is the Jardin Privé website, which is in France. Carries this on their website. They did not design this, but they carry Camille's designs on their website. Does that make sense? So this is not, you wouldn't say that Jardin Privé is the designer of this piece, but obviously they carry her stuff on their website. So you could kind of call it a Jardin Privé piece. Okay? Utopie, there's a companion one that goes with it called Reverie. That's more spring colors. These are more fall colors. I could not find this at the time. I could not find this anywhere online to buy, so I saw it on Stash Queen's, one of her YouTube videos, and thought, oh, I have to have that. It has little houses in the tree. The tree is gorgeous. The colors are gorgeous. And there's little houses and little swings. See the little swings? And a little house clear up there in the branch. Love it. And it's only 170 by 139. So I knew that my LNS in Salt Lake City, the Craft Center of Fine Stitchery, carries Jardin Privé designs. So I asked them if they'd be able to get this for me, and they did. They ordered it, I think within 2 weeks, called me, I think it was a week, called me and told me it was in. Because they had they were going to do an order from Jardin, wherever they get their Jardin Privé patterns from. They did an order and ordered it for me. I want to say somebody said it's available online somewhere, but I can't remember where it was. So if you can't find it online anywhere, then just ask your LNS if they can, ask anyone who carries Jardin Privé designs if they can order it for you. My birthday is April 28th, right at the end of the month. Maynia starts on May 1st. So I'm going to cheat. This is one of my Maynia new starts, but I'm going to cheat and start this on my birthday on the 28th, which I believe is a Sunday this year. So I'm just starting it 2 days early, and then it will show up again in May as one of my Maynia new starts, which will technically be a WIP now because I started it 2 days earlier. If you would like to join me, this is a kind of a birthday stitch-along. I mentioned this on my last video. If you want to join me stitching that, I'm going to use the hashtag Utopie SAL 2019, I believe is what I said. I'll look that up for sure and put it in the description box below. I am stitching it on 40 count Silk Weaver Autumn Fields. Just kind of this, it's kind of a taupe, kind of a grayish brown color with the called for DMC. And I'm starting that on April 28th. All right, that is all of my pieces that I plan to start in May in 2019. And then hopefully and then I was going to tell you really quick. Okay, so this was the monthly lineup. January, I'll start them all in May and then work on them again one more time at the end of May, which will get me into 1 week into June. So they'll all get 2 days. And then after that, in June, kind of my June piece is Arcade. So I'm going to be working on Arcade, will be my focus piece in June, which I'm not going to finish in a month. That one is definitely huge. That might take several years. July is You Are My Density, because that's when my wedding anniversary is. So the Back to the Future You Are My Density piece. And I can probably get that one finished in July. It's not very big. August will be Summertime, the one I showed you by Stitch Rovia. And I'll probably finish that in August. It's not very big. September will be Sky Blue Street by Soda Street, and I probably cannot get that finished in a month. So that will be a continuing WIP. October is Autumn Garden by Drawn Thread. I probably won't be able to finish that in October, but it'll probably be at least 2/3 done in October. November will be Harvest Time by Prey Schooler, and I might be able to get that one done in a month. December will be Let It Snow by Stitch Rovia, and I'll probably be able to get that done in a month. January is the little card that I'm doing for my Fun Everyday calendar, so that's totally doable in a month. February is the little red door one, so I could totally get that done in a month. And March is the other seasonal card for my Fun Everyday calendar, so I could get that done in a month. And then April is Utopia, which is not very big either, so I might be able to get that done certainly by the time Maynia starts next year, because that will be April of next year will be my focus piece if it's not finished already. So those are what I'm going to do, kind of my plan to finish my Maynia pieces. And then the 3 new miscellaneous new starts to fill up the last 3 spots were the Patchwork by Jan Houtman, which is huge, Sleeping Princess by Mirabilia, which is huge, and Day and Night by Long Dog Sampler, which is huge. It's 331 by 225. So those will probably definitely add to my WIP debt, Catherine, and be on in my pile for a while. But I'm excited. I would love to see all of your Maynia plans if you plan on participating in Maynia. If you don't, that's fine. Love watching Maynia videos. And I hope you have a lovely stitching day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.